Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ringside Wrestling Entertainment. This is Joel Perez here, and of course, we are here for your WrestleMania 34 preview and predictions part 2. This is where we're going to be talking strictly about some main event matches on the show, and the matches, of course, that I didn't cover on the part 1. That means AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura, Asuka versus Charlotte, Ronda Rousey, Kurt Angle versus Triple H, and Stephanie McMahon. We're going to be talking about Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss. Unfortunately, we're going to be talking as well about the Fatal 4-Way for the United States Championship. And whatever match I'm forgetting, I'm probably forgetting one, I believe so. No, I'm not forgetting any matches. So we're going to be talking about 5 matches on this show that, of course, that we did not talk about on part 2. 5 big matches on the show, which will be heavily highlighted on the show as well. Oh, and another matchup that I'm forgetting here is the triple threat ladder matchup that's happening, of course, for the tag team titles between the New Day, the Bludgeon Brothers, and the Usos, your tag team champions. So we're going to be talking about all that in this video, but before we roll into all of that, I just want to tell you guys to make sure to go check out all the other content on the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel. Of course, I say that because there is so much other content for you guys to go check out. You have your Monday Night Raw and Smackdown live reviews, your go-home shows to the big pay-per-view happening this Sunday, WrestleMania 34. Make sure to go check out those 2 reviews out, either if you missed those shows or you want an educated opinion on those shows, or both of those things. Make sure to go check out Behind the Mic episode number 60, which was uploaded earlier this week. We're talking about Roman Reigns possibly turning heel at WrestleMania 34, which is also something that I discussed on part 1 of the preview and predictions a little bit. So we talk about that on 2 videos, that being the big news story for Behind the Mic episode number 60, of course, where we talk all the biggest news in the WWE. Make sure to go check out a video regarding WrestleMania 34, which would fit right into the content that we're uploading this week, having to do with the match order that WWE should go with that will not tire the crowd out. That's something that we heavily focus, being able to endure this 7-hour marathon that we're going to be getting with WrestleMania 34. We talked about the match order that was uploaded around Wednesday or Thursday of last week. Make sure to go check that video out. Very, very relevant stuff on there, as well as to await all the content coming on the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel. Of course, we uploaded the part 1 to the preview and predictions, but we still have a lot of content coming, even as far as preview and predictions goes, because you're doing NXT TakeOver New Orleans preview and predictions tomorrow night, as well as NXT TakeOver New Orleans review after that show goes off the air on Saturday night, and Behind the Mic episode number 61 happening on Saturday morning. That will be uploaded as well. You can also expect the WrestleMania 34 review, the granddaddy review of them all, right? Is, of course, WrestleMania. That will be uploaded probably like at 1:30 in the morning whenever WWE decides to conclude WrestleMania 34, which has such a massive card, of course, that I had to split it into 2 videos here. That's how ridiculous the card was for WrestleMania 34, but that is, of course, besides the point. I just want to tell you guys to make sure to subscribe to the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel to get all this content that I'm talking about right here straight to your subscription box, as well as to click on that notification bell so you can get it straight to your mobile device. And of course, make sure to like this video if you enjoy what you're hearing here. If you dislike me, make sure, and if you disagree with my opinion, click on that dislike button. It doesn't hurt me. I'm not going to get butthurt by it. Make sure to click on that like or dislike button, as well as to comment about what you think about all these matches. Tell me your preview and predictions for WrestleMania 34 in the comment section below. But for now, we're going to go straight into your WrestleMania 34 preview and predictions part 2. And we start off with the Bludgeon Brothers versus the Usos versus the New Day. This is something that has been built to decently, nothing too outstanding here, which is something which realistically we could have gotten here. I mean, we could have gotten something that was really out of this world as far as storytelling goes. We already know the in-ring ability of all these teams, yes, but as well as the microphone ability of a team like the Usos, that was not taken advantage of. There was a lot of things that I would change about this matchup. For one, I would have made it a ladder matchup if it was going to be a triple threat, because we have no ladder matchup at WrestleMania. But for all we know, we'll end up watching WrestleMania 34, and it will be turned into a ladder match. That's exactly what they did with WrestleMania 33's triple threat tag team ladder match, of course, where the Hardys returned. They turned that into a ladder matchup last minute, so maybe they'll do that with this, but I wish that would have been highlighted. These teams maybe come at each other with ladders out of nowhere. That would have been cool, and it would have made this matchup a matchup that really could have stolen the show if that stipulation would have been added, because imagine what the Usos, the New Day, and the Bludgeon Brothers could do with ladders inside that ring. Another thing I wish this matchup would have brought us is the New Day taking a seat back. The New Day has had their reigns with the tag team championships. They've done everything that's needed to be done from them in the tag team division, and instead of giving the Usos and the Bludgeon Brothers the spotlight to do what they needed to do in that ring, and they can put on a great matchup. We know that back when we were seeing the Usos as baby faces against Eric Rowan and Luke Harper when they were part of the Wyatt family. So two completely different iterations of these two teams, but they put on a fantastic match then. Imagine what they can do on WrestleMania now. And if the New Day would have taken a step back, I think that would have enhanced this tag team title feud. It would have given us those promos from the Usos coming in as underdogs in this feud against the Bludgeon Brothers. It would have come across as a lot better. Instead, on the go-home show this past Tuesday on Smackdown Live, what are we seeing? We're seeing the New Day, and they're promoting WWE Network stuff, and the Bludgeon Brothers come in and the Usos come in. Why? Because they're part of the tag team scenario there. So since the New Day was promoting that WrestleMania would be free on the WWE Network, of course WWE had to throw that in there for some odd goddamn reason, and it came across as absolutely forced and something not of the caliber of the Bludgeon Brothers or the Usos. Instead, you could have easily had the New Day take a seat back, maybe be the hosts of WrestleMania 34 for a second year in a row, had them in a fun segment with the Legends. You literally could have done anything else, and it would have made this matchup better. But I'm sure that these teams are going to bring it all to each other. Of course, the Usos, the Bludgeon Brothers, and the New Day, what they can do in that ring, it speaks for itself. And we're probably going to see a very, very good matchup here. But like I said, there were things that WWE could have done with this matchup, which realistically would have enhanced what we're seeing at WrestleMania 34 and made this a better matchup for the viewer. WWE did not decide to go that route. It disappoints me, but that does not stop this from being a matchup that I'm looking forward to seeing on WrestleMania. But again, one of these matches on WrestleMania that I'm looking forward to for the match quality alone. There's no investment here. And this is a big rant that I went on the part 1 of the preview and predictions for WrestleMania 34. Go check it out if you have not seen it yet. It's the fact that we haven't gotten investment into a lot of these feuds, and this is easily a feud that could have invested us and brought us in and led to a great matchup at WrestleMania. But now the matchup is going to be good, or very good, because we're not going to be as invested in everything these two teams are doing, and that's a shame. But for now, we move on here to the next match, and it is a matchup that, to say the least, I have not many good things to say about this. It's Nia Jax versus Alexa Bliss. If you've been watching my Raw reviews on a consistent basis, you know that I do not care for this feud whatsoever. This is going to be the worst matchup at WrestleMania 34, hands down. You look at the card that we have here. Asuka versus Charlotte. You have AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. That matchup that we were just talking about. The New Day, the Bludgeon Brothers, and the Usos. You got The Miz, Finn Balor, and Seth Rollins in a triple threat for the Intercontinental Championship. How does this matchup compare to anything that we are going to see in those matchups at all? It doesn't. It absolutely does not whatsoever. This matchup has been built on absolute playground, high school drama, divas era garbage. Why the hell do I feel like these two women are fighting more over a bully than the Women's Championship? The Women's Championship should be highlighted on WrestleMania 34, and WWE has completely failed to do that with this feud. Neither of these women, I don't even think I can recall them mentioning the Women's Championship in this feud. It's Alexa calling Nia Jax blubber? Blubber. Yeah, that's your Women's Championship feud going into WrestleMania 34. Holy crap. You guys know I have been very vocal about what I thought should have gone into WrestleMania 34 as your Raw Women's Championship feud. And that's very easily Sasha Banks versus Bayley. WWE has failed to capitalize on every big pay-per-view that has come on remaking and reliving the fantastic stuff that we saw between Sasha Banks and Bayley at WrestleMania or at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, the original, back in NXT. That is a money feud right there. That put the limelight. That's what WWE regards as the best women's matchup of all time. And you mean to tell me that you do not want to relive that going into WrestleMania 34, that you don't want to make your card even better? Instead, you're giving us this with Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss? And if you expect these women to put on a good matchup, you are completely wrong. Completely wrong. Because, I mean, you think about it this way. Nia Jax, I mean, who's brought Nia Jax to a good matchup? You think about it this way. Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks has been the only woman to bring Nia Jax to a good matchup. Who's been the only woman to bring Alexa Bliss to a good matchup? She's been champion for like, what, almost a year now? And she's had like one good matchup against, you guessed it, Sasha Banks. Begs the question why Sasha Banks isn't in the position these women are. When I think of WrestleMania, when I think of the champion of a brand, I think who is the best in-ring competitor, who is the best at what they do in that brand. Alexa Bliss or Nia Jax are neither of those things. They are not. They are very far from the best on those brands. The two best on that Monday Night Raw brand right now are very evidently Sasha Banks and Bayley. And instead of encapsulating this feud, which the little that we've seen of it on WWE television between Sasha and Bayley, because they have been feuding, the little that we've seen of it has been great. Has been great. Now imagine that, what we've seen on Raw between Sasha and Bayley and that backstage beatdown and all that good stuff. Imagine all that, but with the Raw Women's Championship on the line. That would be absolutely fantastic stuff. Instead, we get this absolute blubber garbage between Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe this is what we're getting at WrestleMania 34 for the Raw Women's Championship. You had a very, very good card, WWE, and then we get to this matchup, and it's like a roadblock. Nobody wants to see it. And the only thing that can save this matchup from being absolutely god-awful garbage is WWE having Carmella cash in on Alexa Bliss or Nia Jax. That's the way you got to do it, because the matter of the fact is that Carmella, you don't want to see her cash in against Asuka or Charlotte. I know I don't. Those are two women that I want to see each other take each other to the limit. I don't want Carmella interrupting that. I don't want to see Carmella walk out of WrestleMania Smackdown Women's Champion when those are the two women you have feuding over the title. Carmella, Nia Jax, and Alexa Bliss, out of those three women, I'm easily taking Carmella. Easily. Because I'm tired of seeing Alexa Bliss as champion. She's done nothing noteworthy in the ring for months. Yeah, she's great on the microphone, but when you're giving her material like calling Nia Jax blubber, that is immediately taken out of the picture. And Nia Jax, I mean, she's not good in the ring. That's it. She has a long way to go from being a Raw Women's Champion or Women's Champion material performer. She has a very, very long way to go. I don't care if Nia and Alexa in real life are best friends. I don't care about any of that. That has nothing to do with why these women are on WrestleMania 34. They just don't deserve to be there. And this matchup, I predict, is going to be absolutely terrible because Alexa is a small heel who's going to be dwarfed by Nia Jax, who's supposedly supposed to be playing the babyface here. From the matches we've seen from Nia Jax as a babyface against Mickie James just this past week on Raw, I believe, or 2 weeks ago on Raw, she has not been refined, that she does not know what to do as a babyface in a babyface role. She is not refined to that whatsoever, and Alexa Bliss isn't going to bring Nia Jax to anything of note, if you ask me. This matchup is the worst matchup on WrestleMania 34's card. I have no interest in seeing this preschool drama transcribed onto WWE television. This matchup will be awful. I'm hoping that Carmella finds some loophole, that's how WWE explains it, and she cashes in on either Nia Jax or Alexa Bliss. Because right now, this is abysmal. We move on here to the United States Championship matchup on WrestleMania, and it is Rusev versus Randy Orton, who is the United States Champion, versus Bobby Roode versus Jinder Mahal. Now, this is a matchup that, quite frankly, I had no interest in whatsoever until the inclusion of Rusev was added to this matchup. The only way this matchup could go and needs to go is through Rusev winning the United States Championship. And from that article that I'm going to be talking about on Behind the Mic episode number 61, just a little teaser for that, there's an article saying that Rusev has requested his release from the WWE. So maybe WWE is trying to do anything they can to keep Rusev in their clutches. He's the biggest merchandise seller on WWE Shop right now, and he deserves to be rewarded for that. He's been racking up wins on WWE television. He won the matchup 2 weeks ago, the tag team matchup against Bobby Roode and Randy Orton. He beat Jinder Mahal in the middle of the ring clean earlier, or this past Tuesday on Smackdown Live on the Go Home Show. Now that does create suspicion because of the theory, if you win on the Go Home Show, you're losing on the pay-per-view, which makes me think Rusev is losing since he did stand tall on the Go Home Show. But I don't know. All I know is that I do not want to see Randy Orton, Randy Borton, because that is what he is. He's absolutely boring as United States Champion. I do not want to see him continue in this babyface role, one, and as United States Champion. I think he needs to move to Raw after WrestleMania as a heel. That would be some great stuff from Randy Orton right there. As far as Bobby Roode goes, same thing. This guy needs to turn heel. I say he doesn't win the United States Championship at WrestleMania and have this drive him to goddamn turn heel. Because Bobby Roode as a babyface, same thing as Randy Orton. I do not want to see it. It's absolutely god-awful television. And then you move on to Jinder Mahal. Who I want to see get off of my television the moment I see Sunil Singh come out with the microphone and try to intimidate the Rusev gimmick. He is absolutely god-awful, not only on the microphone, but in the ring. We were plagued to 6 months of seeing this guy as your WWE champion last year. Why would I want to be plagued to seeing Jinder Mahal as your United States champion this year? I don't want to see it. The only result here is to give it to Rusev. And maybe if this is true about Rusev requesting his release from the WWE, maybe this is WWE's attempt to get this guy to sign again and to get this guy to want to stay with the WWE, because it's clear Rusev is one of the most over baby faces right now, despite the fact that WWE seemingly still has him portraying a heel. He's one of the most over babyface acts on your roster, both rosters, Raw and SmackDown, besides Daniel Bryan, because, of course, who's going to be bigger than Daniel Bryan? But Rusev is your biggest merchandise seller on WWE Shop. He is bringing you a reaction. You have people chanting Rusev Day during Shane McMahon segments. This guy is incredibly over, and I don't understand why WWE would not capitalize on that. It just makes no goddamn sense to me. The things Rusev can do as United States Champion are absolutely fantastic, and hopefully WWE goes this route, because besides that, there's no interest to this matchup. When this matchup was originally just Randy Orton, Bobby Roode, and Randy Orton, I was listing this matchup off on the pre-show. I didn't want to see it. I did not want to see it. Besides Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss, the pre-show matchup, I would have put Randy Orton, Bobby Roode, and Jinder Mahal in that situation. Now that Rusev's in the matchup, this matchup looks like a WrestleMania matchup in the form of Rusev, only if he wins the United States Championship. That is my opinion on that. Rusev needs to win this matchup. Not only for WWE probably to convince this guy to stay, but to give him a big win on WrestleMania that he deserves, because he has taken this Rusev Day gimmick and turned it into something spectacular. And from the reaction he gets each and every single week on SmackDown Live, I don't think there is any denying that. As far as everybody goes here, I say have Rusev win the United States Championship. Have Jinder Mahal fade to obscurity after WrestleMania because I do not want to see him on my television. Have Randy or Bobby Roode turn heel and have Randy Orton move to Monday Night Raw and do the same thing, turn heel. For now, that is all on this matchup. We move on to the next matchup, and that is Asuka versus Charlotte at WrestleMania 34. Of course, this is for the Smackdown Women's Championship. This is what a actual Women's Championship match looks like. Asuka rightfully won the Women's Royal Rumble, the first ever Women's Royal Rumble, earlier this year in January. You had her win that. She had the choice of either Alexa Bliss with the Raw Women's Championship or Charlotte with the SmackDown Women's Championship. And she, of course, made the right choice and chose Charlotte. And we're going into an absolute WrestleMania dream matchup. This is probably the first women's dream matchup that we've ever seen. So this is something that I'm very, very excited for. The build hasn't been anything too spectacular. I think that they could have done better with it. You had, of course, Asuka show up on SmackDown one week and confront Charlotte and say that she's going to take her Women's Championship. The basic things. You had Charlotte with the more tranquil attitude, talking about how this is a dream match, saying how she will dethrone Asuka, how she will end the undefeated streak. It's title versus streak. And for any people thinking that Asuka is going to lose her streak to Charlotte, you're absolutely ridiculous. It is clear that Asuka is going to win the SmackDown Women's Championship here, carry it all year, probably until WrestleMania 35. You're going to have Ronda Rousey win the Women's Royal Rumble in 2019, and we're going to be on our way to Asuka versus an undefeated Ronda Rousey. It's two undefeated women going against each other, and it's title and streak for Asuka versus streak, and that is something that could realistically be your first ever women's WrestleMania main event. I don't understand why WWE would pass up on that opportunity with all the women's agenda things that are going on right now. If there's going to be a first ever women's main event, WWE didn't sign Ronda Rousey for no goddamn reason. That would be it. Absolutely. But Asuka is not losing here. Asuka is not losing here whatsoever. Hopefully, Carmella does not cash in on this matchup because I feel like we are going to see a Carmella cash in at WrestleMania 34. And even if she does cashes in, WWE better book her to pin Charlotte and not Asuka. Because if Asuka gets pinned in any way, I am going to be furious at the end of this show. Absolutely ridiculous stuff right there if that happened. But I doubt WWE is going to do any of that. I expect to see Asuka win the Women's Championship from Charlotte in what is probably going to be a very, very good matchup. Whether or not Charlotte decides to bring it is an entirely different story. Her in-ring ability has been really hit or miss as of late. She put on a great matchup with Natalya on SmackDown Live 2 weeks ago. That was, of course, interrupted by the cash-in of Carmella, or the cash-in tease. How many goddamn times is WWE going to tease Carmella cashing in? When she actually cashes in, nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to care because we've seen this literally 500 different times. So it's going to be interesting to see if Carmella does cash in at WrestleMania 34. But this is going to be a very, very good matchup. I expect to see a lot of things out of this matchup. I'm very excited for this matchup. I want to see what Charlotte and Asuka can do in the ring against each other. This matchup hasn't been built too simply, but it's been built too effectively. You had even Asuka show up on SmackDown Live last week, or this week on the Go Home show, and Charlotte swept the microphone from Asuka. I wish they would have gotten a little bit physical. They refrained from getting physical in the AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura program. That doesn't mean you have to abide by the same rules between Asuka and Charlotte. This feud also would have been better if Charlotte would have been a heel. A heel versus face feud is always better than a babyface versus babyface feud, at least if it's WWE booking it. You can book a great babyface versus babyface feud, but again, it's WWE failing to write good storyline. Unless they really, really care about it, like I mentioned in the last Part 1 video, like Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, John Cena versus The Undertaker, they're not going to be writing effective storyline. And I find that very ridiculous. but they've written a decent storyline. Very mediocre, very lazy for Charlotte and Asuka, but hopefully what these two women do in that ring can defute that. This is another one of those matches where I'm realistically most excited for it because of what they're going to do in that ring, and that shouldn't be the case, but that's what WWE has lined up for us. So there it is, Charlotte versus Asuka. I'm predicting Asuka wins the SmackDown Women's Championship, and that does mean that Asuka makes the move to SmackDown Live. I'm not sure if Charlotte will remain on SmackDown Live after that, but that means Asuka makes the move to SmackDown, because another thing is you're not going to have Ronda Rousey and Asuka on the same brand. That's just not an operation that's going to work, and it makes sense that WWE is keeping them off the same brand. Speaking of Ronda Rousey so much, we move on to this matchup, Ronda Rousey and Kurt Angle versus Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. This is definitely one of those matches that WWE built WrestleMania around, and as far as how WWE has presented Ronda Rousey, I mean, what do I gotta tell you? She is being handled in some areas well. In other areas, and this is where I care, she's been handled absolutely terribly. There's been rumors going out, or this is pretty much confirmed when you see her in her work on the microphone. She's absolutely terrible on the microphone. She's absolutely terrible, and the report came out that WWE is letting her go out there, and she is unscripted. She is unscripted. Are you kidding me? You know all the guys who can go out there unscripted and cut a great promo, whether it's a babyface or a heel? Guys like Bobby Roode, guys like Randy Orton, guys like, I don't know, Samoa Joe, even though he cuts great promos regardless. So many guys. Seth Rollins is another one. Probably Dean Ambrose if he were unscripted on WWE television and just given bullet points or so. That's what Ronda Rousey's given. That is what Ronda Rousey's given, and this was confirmed. She said this on an ESPN interview. And let me tell you, they're making the completely wrong decision. For somebody who's never been in a wrestling ring before, for somebody who has no experience to this business, you mean to tell me you're going to let Ronda Rousey go out there, of all people, and speak unscripted on the microphone? Are you kidding me? That is absolutely ridiculous stuff. Absolutely ridiculous stuff. And that's just one example of WWE mishandling Ronda Rousey. Another thing is that they have not instructed her to stop going out there and smiling. Stephanie McMahon and Triple H have gone out there like absolutely outlandish heels, which is something that I will discuss. And after WWE saying that they're going to own Ronda Rousey, or Stephanie McMahon and Triple H, I should say, saying that they're going to own Ronda Rousey and that they're going to repackage her and do all these things to her, and they're going to ruin her career, blah, 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 blah. They're going to bury her, all this crap. After WWE saying that, or let me stop saying WWE, this is probably the way WWE thinks about talent who is not Ronda Rousey, who they do not have ulterior motives with, and who they do not want to use to get deals for, like, to get leverage over their TV deal, which does expire in 2019. But Ronda Rousey, back to this promo situation, Ronda Rousey and her smiling. She's probably being given bullet points. Why is she smiling after WWE is going out there? Stephanie McMahon and Triple H are going out there and talking all this crap about her. It just makes absolutely zero sense. She goes out there and smiles, and it goes back to WWE having her unscripted because they're not instructing her against doing things like that, and it comes across as absolutely god-awful television. God-awful television. The best parts of Ronda Rousey on WWE television are when she goes into that evil Ronda mode, when she's staring her opponent down. That stare-off that she had with Stephanie McMahon on the go-home show when they were taking the pictures, Ronda looked good there. Another thing that I'm worried about is how Ronda Rousey is going to perform in the ring. She's lucky that this is a mixed tag team matchup because Kurt Angle's probably going to take most of the load along with Triple H, but as far as what Ronda Rousey is going to do in the ring goes, I'm absolutely scared for what she's going to be doing in the ring because she does not look that good in the ring at all. When we've seen her do tosses and flips, they don't resemble wrestling moves. You also have it where she took a bump through a table at the hands of Stephanie McMahon on the Go Home show. She sold it completely wrong. Instead of acting knocked out like anybody else would be when they go through a table, Ronda sits there and stares at Stephanie McMahon like with this "I'm gonna get you" face. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Instead of selling the moves, if Ronda doesn't have a grasp of the fundamentals of selling a goddamn move, especially a move as lethal as a power slam through a table, you mean to tell me that she's going to do good in the ring? I doubt it. But then again, it might be too premature to judge that. Maybe she can turn out to be the next Kurt Angle when it comes to just picking up being in the ring naturally. Hopefully that is the case. But as far as what we've seen from her already, I'm not impressed whatsoever. Whatsoever. And that is absolutely ridiculous to think. Another problem I've had with this feud, there's a lot of problems here, is the outlandish heels that Stephanie McMahon and Triple H have been. And they've made it so the crowd has no choice to cheer for Ronda Rousey because this feud has been so one-dimensional in the approach that Stephanie McMahon and Triple H have taken, especially when it comes to being heels. They've said all this outlandish crap about how they're going to own Ronda Rousey, and everybody who goes into the WWE, they own them. There's no way I can get on the side of Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. They just come across as delusional idiots. And, I mean, why is that the case? You mean to tell me you couldn't have written a more 3D, three-dimensional storyline with some actual backbone to it where I can see the side of Triple H and Stephanie McMahon? A great example of it is Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Daniel Bryan, and Shane McMahon. You look at that feud, and you see where Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon are coming from with the fact that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn have been absolutely relentless, but you still see the side of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. They feel like they've been screwed over on Smackdown Live multiple times to the point where they're going to do that aggression. They're going to show that aggression regardless of what happens. Shane McMahon at Fastlane screwed them over multiple times, unreasonably right there. That was a moment of weakness for Shane McMahon. Have a moment of weakness for Ronda Rousey or Kurt Angle. And speaking of Kurt Angle, his mic skills are absolutely god-awful. Kurt Angle comes across as an absolute buffoon on the microphone. He said, Rowdy Ronda Rowdy. Rowdy Ronda Rowdy, he said. Ronda Rowdy, he said on Monday Night Raw on the Go Home show. Don't even remind me of him on that Raw where Braun Strowman was taking over everything and destroying everybody. Don't even remind me of Stephanie McMahon that Kurt Angle uttered. He comes across as an absolute goddamn buffoon. It's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. So I have my fair share of problems with this angle. I'm sure that it's going to be entertaining. Stephanie McMahon and Triple H, as far as what they do in the ring, they are absolute professionals. I'm sure they will carry Ronda Rousey to something good, or at least entertaining. Hopefully this just doesn't turn out to be a complete disaster. I say you have Kurt Angle and Triple H in the ring for most of the time. And I mean, another thing that I'm worried about is that Stephanie McMahon, she's not necessarily the most seasoned competitor either. You don't have Ronda Rousey in there with the consummate professional like a Charlotte or a Becky Lynch or a Sasha Banks or even a Bayley. You don't have her in there with any of those women who know what they're doing 100% in the middle of that ring. They do this week in and week out, and they are complete professional wrestlers. Stephanie McMahon, she wrestles like what? Once every 3 years? She's going to wrestle here. She's going to be who carries Ronda Rousey to a matchup here at WrestleMania 34. So I have my concerns about so many things regarding this matchup. I'm just hoping that things turn out well because right now it's not looking good on many, many fronts. But you know something where fronts are looking very, very good, where I am very excited to see what we're going to get going into WrestleMania. It is AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. We have wanted this matchup for over a year, and we made it to WrestleMania 34. They did things absolutely the way they should have done them. AJ Styles won the WWE Championship back in November from Jinder Mahal, who had an absolute awful title reign. Don't even remind me of what Jinder Mahal did on that title reign. Shinsuke Nakamura won the 2018 Men's Royal Rumble. He did that. He completely made his way over to WrestleMania 34, and we're getting AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. WWE did not tarnish this matchup. I'm absolutely surprised WWE has not tarnished this matchup by adding a Dolph Ziggler in there, which at one point we thought Dolph Ziggler might be added, by adding somebody of making this a triple threat match, even with John Cena. Those were thoughts as well of how WWE can tarnish this, making this a triple threat match instead of the one-on-one. And I'm surprised WWE hasn't tarnished this as well as the build to this matchup goes. WWE has kept this completely clean, and I like it. I absolutely like what WWE has done. There's been some fun moments between AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura in the 3 or 4 weeks that they've had to build when Fastlane was over, because they had their separate feuds, of course, going into Fastlane. And again, it was a roadblock, another thing that I mentioned on part 1 of the preview and predictions. It was a roadblock for SmackDown Live, so we really didn't get to see this matchup get built until the final 3 or 4 weeks until WrestleMania. But what we did see, it was basic for a babyface versus babyface program. They did the garbage where Shinsuke Nakamura teamed with AJ Styles, but as far as the story of one-upsmanship and competition that they've told, it's been pretty decent, and it's something that you can realistically invest yourself in going into WrestleMania 34. They've mentioned minimally, but they've mentioned the history. They're saying with AJ Styles this past week on the Go Home Show, saying that this isn't the Tokyo Dome, but realistically, if there were some things that I would have done differently, if I was to see this matchup again, I'd like for AJ Styles to be a heel. It would add layers to this matchup. Definitely, if AJ Styles was a heel trying to screw over Shinsuke Nakamura, that would be amazing. But that clearly was not something that we were going to see here. But something that I would have changed about the actual build to this matchup is that I very easily would have had Shinsuke Nakamura and AJ Styles bring up the, of course, history that they have in New Japan much more as a focus for the video packages. WWE is not shy to mention the IWGP this, the IWGP that. Why can't you bring up the history between Shinsuke Nakamura and AJ Styles, that amazing matchup they had at Wrestle Kingdom 10 for the IWGP Intercontinental Championship? There are layers to this feud. Have AJ Styles say that he wants to get his revenge. He wants to avenge his loss to Shinsuke Nakamura in the Tokyo Dome. Have him bring up that this is on his soil. This is U.S. soil. Nakamura may have beaten him in Japan. He may have beaten him in his home, but now AJ Styles is in his home. This is where AJ Styles is the best in the world, and there's no way AJ is going to let Shinsuke take over him for that. That would have been something great to mention. I would have loved to see AJ get more furious with Nakamura, maybe have a busting point where he's just like, I'm done with you, Nakamura, and he unloads and says a bunch of crap that he doesn't mean to say. You don't necessarily need to ever get physical, and that's something that I love that WWE did in this build. They did not let these two guys get physical with each other at any point in the build. They teased it for sure. Nakamura 1 week teased hitting AJ Styles with a Kinshasa stops right before pats AJ on the head, playing mind games. That's something great that WWE did here. They had Nakamura play mind games, and this week AJ Styles kind of turned the tables with the mind games on the Go Home Show, with him hitting a phenomenal forearm, or teasing a phenomenal forearm, stops right before, and he pats Nakamura on the head. There's some tension there, not as much tension as I would like, but again, it's WWE, and I'm surprised that they have kept this storyline intact and they have not done something absolutely ridiculous to tarnish this. This is going to be one of the best, if not the best, matchup at WrestleMania. This is absolutely going to take the show by storm. This is exactly what we wanted for a year. AJ versus Nakamura for the WWE Championship. I'm hoping it's the main event. I am hoping it's the main event. Do I think WWE is going to put it in that position? Of course not. I think it's going to be a very simple Roman Brock main event at WrestleMania 34, and believe me, that does not excite me in the slightest, unless WWE pulls the twist of course, having Roman Reigns turn heel, like we mentioned on the part 1 of the preview and predictions. But I mean, I absolutely doubt WWE doing any of that. I expect WrestleMania 34 to end with a chorus of boos for Roman Reigns, because he's still a babyface, and we see the visual for the 4th year in a row of Roman Reigns closing WrestleMania with the Universal Championship in his hands. Believe me, I want it to be completely different. I'd rather see a John Cena versus Undertaker main event, maybe, if that, of course, was to be Undertaker's last match. That's the main event, easy. But AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura would be my main event for WrestleMania. This is my main event for this show, even if it doesn't go on last. It should go on last, but I doubt WWE is going to do that. But just for you, all of you to know, this is my main event. This is what I can't wait to see. And as far as who wins this matchup, there's no doubt the winner of this matchup needs to be Shinsuke Nakamura. I mean, there's no reason for AJ to win this matchup. He's had his WWE Championship reign. It is Nakamura's time to shine. WWE has built up Nakamura to this point. They've had some blunders along the way as far as what Nakamura did in 2017, and he hasn't necessarily had an outstanding matchup yet as far as he's hit the main roster. Nakamura's best matchup, realistically, is what he did with Sami Zayn on his first night in NXT. That's his best matchup. This might rival that, and hopefully it does, because Nakamura really hasn't had as much steam as he wanted to, and as we all know, WrestleMania, a WrestleMania main event can realistically change a career. So hopefully WWE uses this matchup to get that steam under Nakamura that they have so rightfully failed as of now to get on Nakamura. So hopefully Nakamura does get the momentum that he needs. This is an amazing matchup. Everything goes to plan. There were even rumors that scared the crap out of me that AJ Styles was going to have to miss this matchup. Of course, because he got injured on some house show. WWE has kept him for the most part from getting physical on WWE television, and he looks fine. He looks fine. He stepped in the ring. He was in a matchup just this past Tuesday, tag team matchup, of course, with Shinsuke Nakamura. WWE did the typical babyface and babyface team, which I did not enjoy as much. Of course, that was against Shelton Benjamin and Chad Gable, but that is besides the point. Hopefully, WWE delivers on this matchup, and with what Nakamura and AJ can do in that ring, I have no doubt that they will deliver what we want to see. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, that is all as far as your WrestleMania 34 preview and predictions go. I hope you enjoyed each and every single thing that you heard here on this video, because for now, that is going to be all. Make sure to go check out all the other content on the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel. Of course, Raw reviews, Smackdown reviews, pay-per-view review for WrestleMania coming this Sunday, NXT TakeOver review coming this Saturday, preview and predictions for NXT TakeOver coming this Friday, Behind the Mic as well coming this Saturday. For now, that is all right here on Ringside Wrestling. Make sure to like, make sure to comment, make sure to hit that subscribe button with everything you got, because for now, this has been Joel Perez of Ringside Wrestling Entertainment, and I am out of here. Thank you very, very much for watching this video. I'll see you next time, right here on Ringside Wrestling.